Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua, and this is my inspirational thoughts and motivational story of the day. Today, I'm going to share with you a very personal story of mine that will probably hit home with a lot of people, and maybe even actually you be able to relate on some level. I'm not really entirely sure, but we're going to see what happens. But first, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a 41-year-old man that lives in Wisconsin that chills and drives around and does a lot of photoscenic pictures of just beautiful scenery while he's doing his job as a property inspector for the banks and the mortgage industry. I see a lot of different things and I see a lot of different side views of what people are going through in their lives. So maybe this story can relate to some of you that are really struggling with somebody that you're in the process of losing or maybe even have just recently lost. This story is going to be about me and my mother back in 2021, right before she died. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a very personal story to me and it's had a very big impact on my life, but it's made me a better person because I've looked at it in a lot of different angles and a lot of different ways to be able to understand it, accept it, and to be able to let it go and not let it hinder me any further. So maybe could be an inspirational story for you. Needless to say, it all started back in 2020 when me and my ex wife separated, and then she ended up kicking me out in January in 2021. Well, I had nowhere else to go, so I decided to move back in with my mom. And my mom willingly accepted me back into her life, made room for me to be able to stay with her. And it was great because I was at least able to have somebody that I could talk to that, was there and could actually, you know, hang out with when I got home from work. Anyways, when I moved in, though, I did notice that her condition of what kind of pain and stuff that she was going through in her life was deteriorating. I really couldn't put my finger on as to why, but I knew that there was something wrong, but she wasn't going to tell me because she was a very strong woman in her own right, and she didn't rely on other people to take care of her like that. So I understood her boundaries and I respected them. But it was really kind of one of those concerning factors because I noticed every day after I moved in, shortly after I moved in, that everything and every day she was getting worse and worse. And I was just kind of getting more and more concerned every day. But because she was strong in her own right and she didn't want to tell me anything, or she didn't want me to do anything, she just dealt with it. After a while, she's on some of the most powerful painkillers that you can get on the market, and they're not even touching the pain anymore. And it's really sad because the day that I woke up, got up, and was out there in the kitchen doing stuff, and she didn't get out of bed, I knew something was really, really wrong. Needless to say, I went and checked on her before I went to work, and when I did, I asked her, I said, "Do you want me to take you to the doctor?" She's like, "No, I'm okay. I'm just having a hard time getting out of bed." I said, I can clearly see that. And you've got to be in excruciating pain, so you want me to take you to the doctor?" She's like, "No, I want you to go to work and I want you to live your life." Now, in that moment, I really had no idea what she meant by live my life, but I could tell that something was definitely going on and something was not right. I also came to the realization that, she was serious. She wanted me to go and actually do the things that I needed to do for myself so that way I could become a better version of myself so I could share my experiences with people like you. But I didn't understand that. I didn't have a big enough base at the time. I didn't understand it, and I was completely blown out of the water by how she was just being nonchalant about what was going on. I went out to work that day, and I was sitting there driving around doing my job, and what I ended up getting a call at 1:30 in the afternoon was my mom. And she's calling me to tell me we need to talk. She tells me straight out. She's like, "Joshua, we need to talk." And I don't know about you, but usually 90% of the time when your parents say it like that, that usually means that they want to really talk to you about something and you're usually in trouble. Well, that's how it was when I was a kid, and that's pretty much how it was whenever she came with me there with that stern, "We need to talk." So at first I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, what's up? What's going on? What's on your mind? Well, what can I help you with? And she's like, You're a real insensitive son of a bitch. And she hangs up on me out of nowhere. I'm just like, hey, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? You don't ever talk to me like that. Thinking to myself, okay, this definitely got to be something serious because here she is telling me I'm an insensitive son of a bitch when she would never say that. So what's really going on? I pull over and I'm sitting there, call her back. I'm like, what's going on? What's really going on here? She's like, look, we need to talk. I said, I get that. You don't call me an insensitive son of a bitch for no reason. She's like, you're right, I don't. But this is something that is very serious. And I say, okay, what is it? She's like, we need to talk about cancer. Hmm? Whoa. Whoa. What? Cancer? No. No, you gotta be kidding me, man. Cancer? No. You? No. You're in perfect health. What the hell's going on? What are you talking about, cancer? She turns and she says, yeah, it's cancer. I'm at St. Luke's Medical Center in Milwaukee. I said, yeah, you're at 27th in Oklahoma. She's like, where are you? I said, I'm in Mazomanie, Wisconsin. I'm about an hour and 45 minutes away from the house. She's like, well, I'm on the 11th floor of the Garden Towers. And I'm like, oh, shit, you're in the cancer ward. You definitely really, okay, you're not shitting me. And all of a sudden, the realization came over me, flashed over me really quick. And I knew that I didn't have much time, but I had to be strong. So, in that moment, I got off the phone, and me and my ex-wife had been arguing before, but I turned and told my ex-wife I needed her to type me up an email that I could send to all of my vendor companies, letting them know what my current circumstances were because I could no longer think straight. And my main entire focus was just getting to my mom. My ex-wife, immediately, as soon as I told her what was going on, her whole demeanor and everything changed, and she immediately did what I asked her to do, and I went and took care of what business I needed to take care of. I thanked her appreciatively and gratefully for the things that she did for me, and that I will update her as to what was going on with my mom as it unfolded. Excuse me. As soon as I got off the phone with my ex wife, I punched the gas and I drove from Mazomanie, Wisconsin, all the way, which is about 30 minutes west of Madison, Wisconsin, on the northwest side of the county of Dane. It's out there in the sticks. And I drove from there to Milwaukee, and I got there in about an hour and 40 minutes. And I'll tell you right now, I don't remember the drive at all. I was flying. I had nothing on my mind except one thing, and that was worrying about my mom's situation. I knew she was in a safe location, that if anything was to have happened, they would inform me immediately. So I knew that she was okay then. And I got there. I checked in. Everybody on the 11th floor was like, you must be Joshua. I said, yes, I am. They said, come with me. Walked into the room. There's 3 doctors and 2 nurses standing there. The nurses are tending to my mom. The doctors are running tests and looking over information, and I'm talking to the head doctor now. He says, look, your mom came in with the prognosis that she was in excruciating pain in her lower back. I said, yes, that was the assumption on that because that's exactly what she's been complaining about for the last several days. And he's like, and there's a good reason why. We found something there that we don't want to see, we weren't expecting to see, and now we need to run some more tests. I said, okay. He's like, don't worry, I will share the results with you when we have all of the results of all of the tests that we are continuing to proceed with, according to your mom's authorization, because she is still coherent, she still has full authorization of her own care. I said, yes, I know. He did remind me that I do have power of attorney on whatever they can do at that point. And he also informed me that they needed to proceed with what was going on, so they were going to give us about 15-20 minutes before they wheeled her off for the tests to go and, figure out what else was going on. So I was sitting there talking with her, and I'm asking her how she feels, and she's scared. I can see it in her eyes. But I also know that she's pretty much known it was there. And that she was just not saying anything because she was ready to just be done. So, after about 25 minutes, basically, they come back in, they're willing to wheel my mom off in the bed and whatnot, and The nurse, she's like, look, if you need any help or anything, you can just give us a call and we'll do anything that we can for your mom. I said, I know you will. And I appreciate that and I thank you for it. So the next day I go in and I'm sitting there earlier in the morning. They finally get done with all their tests. My mom's in the room. She's eating her lunch. And she's just sitting back and just talking and enjoying herself, you know. And I'm talking with the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, I thought so. It's not a good prognosis. I said, what level? He said level 4. I said, okay, how bad? He opened up his laptop and I pulled up my phone and I started recording the information I was witnessing. And I was actually very surprised. I was actually just like shocked, completely, just like blown out of my mind. Just like, what the hell am I seeing here? Whoa. As he's going through and he's explaining everything, I'm sitting there just like, my mouth's on the floor. I'm just like, whoa, what's going on here? Turns out her L3 vertebrae was completely overrun by a mass. Her T3, 4, and 5 were completely overrun by a mass, and the sixth one had masses starting on it. And she had 3 masses in her brain. I was like, ouch, what the hell? Whoa, didn't you just go have blood work done a couple of months ago, Mom? She's like, yeah, I did. I had blood work done. There was nothing there. There was nothing to be concerned with. The doctor immediately explained it like this. There's 2 types of cancer that can be very explosive when they decide to go. The first one is pancreatic cancer because it completely comes out of nowhere, and usually within a month to 2 months of it being in full engagement, it usually kills the patient. It's one of those very dangerous cancers. But the other cancer is a very dangerous cancer known as lung cancer. I said, yes, my mom was a smoker 30 plus years ago. And he said yes, and at the time she had developed a nodule on the upper left quadrant of her left lung. And they had been paying attention to it according to her medical records for many years, making sure that it wasn't growing in size and that it wasn't changing shape or becoming deformed in any kind of way. They were keeping tabs on it. And she just had a scan done earlier in the year and everything looked fine, everything looked normal. But what ended up happening was that it wasn't normal. Because it just exploded one day and it basically went straight to the bone system and took over the bones. And I was just shocked. I could not believe what I was hearing, what I was seeing, what I was actually feeling in that moment, because I had never thought anything like this in a million years. I thought my mom was just going to die peacefully in bed one night, you know, when she was like 95 years old, just passing her sleep. Not this. Nobody ever wishes something like this on their relatives or their parents or anybody. So I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm trying to analyze and process the information that's come into my mind, and I'm like, wow, what are our options? What do we have available? What is there to be able to do? And now you've got 3 other doctors that want to give you their opinions on what they can do for you. And ultimately, it's up to the one that has the most certainty that can perform the procedure and do it. But at that point in time, they're looking at the options like, we don't know what to do. And I had no idea where to turn to get any information that could have been helpful or useful or even relevant. Until I stumbled upon some stuff that I've been learning and actually educating myself with and doing a great job of actually transforming myself because of it. But that's another story. Needless to say, I'm sitting there, I'm just in shock and awe. And my mom, she pipes up, she's like, don't worry, I got this. I'm bound to fight this, I'm bound to take this and beat this because I know I can. I believe I can. Good. I believe you too, Mom. I believe we can do this. Let's do this. Let's figure it out. Let's actually, figure it out. Let's see what our options are and see what we can do. And she's like, okay. So for a week, they're running their tests. They're figuring out a treatment option for her that would be best suited for what they were going to recommend. And after about a week, I go in one night, fairly late. I bring my daughter with me. Yes, my daughter Ava. She's my daughter. She's a great girl. But we were visiting with Grandma, and that's what I call her when Ava's around. So There you go, a little context. But anyways, we're talking. And my mom looks at both of us. She's like, look, I don't want to do this anymore. This last week has been hell, and if this is going to be like this for the remainder of this, I don't want to go anywhere near this. This is horrible. I just want to go into hospice. I sat there for a moment. My daughter looked at me because she knew that in that moment it was bound to me to make the decision as to what really happened. I sat there and pondered for a few moments as to what to say, what I was thinking, what I was feeling. How do I go about this? But eventually I opened my mouth and I said, you know what, Mom? I love you enough not to argue with you on any of the situation because you've already made up your mind and you already know what you want. The only thing I want to know is if you want me to bring in family. She's like, no. I said, all right. Then we can do this. You want to go to hospice? We'll make it happen now. How about that? Instead of keeping you here and making them just keep working to prolong. She's like, that sounds good. I've already organized that and already set that up. I said, oh. Nurse walks in with the paperwork and the pen, puts it down in front of my mom, and mom signs it. I'm ready to go. Okay, well, the nurse explains that we can get you transported at 5 p.m. I said, all right, well, that only gives us a little bit of time to visit for a bit. Okay. So we hang out with her. We're just talking. Not really actually saying much of anything, but just random bits of things. Listening to what she's saying, listening to what she's thinking, because you know she's in this serious case of overwhelm, and her brain is just sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I wish I had somebody to guide me. I could see it in her eyes that she wanted someone to come in and actually be able to do something to help her figure out what it was that was holding her back and what was killing her, because she knew that wasn't what she wanted. She had no way of being able to overcome it because she had become so weak. And now her physical body was literally collapsing and it was failing on her, slowly. So, they transport her that night. And I get the call from the nurse to let me know that the transport has been successful and that I need to check in with the hospice the next day. And so that night, I go home after dropping my daughter off. After we went out to dinner and just sat there and contemplated and talked for a little while, and actually were just sitting there thinking about all the good times with Grandma, my mom, and I'm truly grateful, for that night. The next day, I went over to the hospice, which was the Zilber Hospice facility in Wauwatosa. If anyone is looking for a good hospice situation in the Wauwatosa, Milwaukee, or Waukesha general area, I would recommend the Zilber facility. They are a top-notch facility that truly cares about their patrons and will actually take the time to explain everything in the processes of death to you so that way you can understand when they are going to pass and when they will go. And they will also be there for you if you need emotional support, and they are a great bunch of people. And if you get the chance to experience some of their food in their cafeteria, I recommend it. It is top-notch, 100%, 5-star. So there you go. There you got my little bit of the Zilber Hospice facility in the Wauwatosa area. Check them out if you ever have a relative that needs to be cared for by good people with hearts that care genuinely about your family and you. So needless to say, at this point, sorry for my little advertisement right there, but I will recommend them to anyone because the service that they provided was top-notch, and I was very satisfied with them at the end. I never actually got to fill out the survey because I never took the time to, and I'm still going to do that to this day, just as a mental note and a video note for me later on when I'm reviewing this for myself. But they got her transported, and I checked in, and they told me that it's 4 people max that can come into the room at a time. I said, no problem. Not that big of an issue, because at that point I was still under the assumption that my mom did not want family in the room. Now, mind you, I had also talked to the nurses early in the morning when they first brought her in, not to lorazepam her up, because I needed her to be able to sign the documents that she had for the will that she had put together, and to do it coherently so it would actually bind under the contracts of law instead of being in a um, uh, disconnected state of mind where it's unlawful to have anyone sign any kind of documents that they, because it's forcing them to sign their life away, basically. Yeah, it's illegal. So I couldn't do that. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to get the will signed, because I didn't know if my mom took care of all of the affairs of the estate, and I wanted to make sure that she didn't lose her shit. So I'm trying to get this taken care of, and so she's kind of in and out of consciousness. She's kind of sitting there, moving around, just kind of, you can tell she's in pain, because they're trying to they can't really give her the painkiller because they got to give her the lorazepam too at the same time. So I'm sitting there talking to my mom. She's in and out, and I'm talking with her, and I'm just, sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, trying to understand what's really happening, and I'm sorry, no, that was the second day. First day, I just went there and I was peaceful and just trying to get a hold of my son to let him know what was going on. And the second day was when I ended up having her taken off the lorazepam for a little while, because I wanted her to come back around, because they were not supposed to lorazepam her up until after I had talked to her on the first day. So it was kind of complicated at first, but it ended up working itself out in mysterious ways at the end that was very beautiful, and it worked everything to the point that it was good. So, but, so I'm sitting there, I'm talking to myself, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm going back and I'm looking at all my memories. I'm sitting there thinking about all the times I had with her, and all the times I didn't have with her. And I'm thinking back and I'm thinking to myself, too, it's very selfish of her not to want family to come into the situation. Not to want family to be present there for her, because that's the most important thing when you're in those moments of time of death. It's your family. And I don't want to feel like the burden that didn't tell anybody and let her just pass, because I didn't want other relatives angry at me. I didn't want them flipping out at me and telling me that I didn't give them a chance to say goodbye. Because in reality, it was very selfish of my mom not to want family in. After talking with her for a while, my phone rings and it's my son, and he's telling me on how my ex-wife messaged him and texted him and called him and said he needs to call me because he was not responding. So we get to talking, and at first I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second, because all of a sudden her reaction is a little different. As soon as she hears my son's voice, her reaction is just a little different. So I'm like, hold on a second, I'm going to call you back on video. So I call him back on video, and we're talking and we're chatting. And I asked him a direct question. The question was this: do you want your grandmother to die alone, knowing that she had family that wanted to say goodbye, but she didn't care, and she just decided to die alone with no one except me? Or do you want her to have family around so that way she can know that she was loved in this lifetime, even though there was differences between opinions of parties? He was like, I want her to be able to have family there, man. I said, I agree. So why don't you ask your grandmother right now the same question? Ask her if she would allow me to bring family in. And he was kind of hesitant at first. I said, Mom, do you want family here? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because she's laying down, she's kind of like in and out of coherency, she sits up, she grabs my arm, she looks at me and says, yes, get family here. Then she looks and turns to my boy, and she says the most powerful thing I ever heard her say. Such a lovely face. You look so much like your father, the strong man that I'm very proud of, and that I love very dearly with all my heart. Immediately, I told him, I said, talk to your mom, get a plane ticket here, get here quick, because we don't have much time. He said, what do you mean? I said, the nurses have been telling me about the way that it goes and how death usually is, and when it's in a slow state like this, we don't have much time when she gets to this point. So his mom went online, checked out some plane tickets, because he was in California at the time. And needless to say, basically, she finds him a good ticket at a good price and tells me the date. Gives me the itinerary to pick him up. And it's a Wednesday. It's good. Good, cool, cool. Then Wednesday, I go pick up my daughter. I pick up him from the airport, and we go down and we visit with my mom. And we're sitting there. She's peaceful in her rest, and we can tell. I walked in, and the first thing I looked at was the urine bag, and the urine bag was pretty much almost empty, which told me that she's pretty much getting close, very close. Because there's a way the body works when you're dying that it'll start purging all liquids, you know. So we're sitting there chilling with her, hanging out with her for like 7, 8 hours, and it didn't even feel like it. It felt like time stood still. I felt like, the memories that were made in that room were more powerful and more profound than any memories that I had previously had. Because we were all there as family, all of us together. And we were all in the company of love. And it felt really good to know that my mom actually wanted to see her family, because she was able to. She was able to say goodbye to her sister. She was able to say goodbye to her daughters, my sisters. She was able to say goodbye to her son-in-law, or her ex-son-in-law, as well. So she was able to say goodbye to all of us. And it was truly great. It was truly a gratifying event to be able to know that I didn't have to deal with the burden of no family, and that everything had been reconciled, even if words were not spoken. She passed March 4th at 12:18 a.m. I was woken up by my son at about 1:30 a.m. because we had gotten back into my house at about 11:30 a.m. after we left the hospice earlier, because my sister and my brother-in-law, and they came back and they wanted to hang out with mom for a little while too. They came back, so we left and we went out to dinner. We went down to the lakefront and we just went and drove around for a few hours, enjoying the night scenery, enjoying the peaceful, calm, cool air, and enjoying just the memories that we had and the memories that we shared. We got back to my place. By that time I was dead tired, because I had not slept very good in a long time, and it was finally starting to catch up. So I went and passed out. My son woke me up at 1:30, telling me my mom had passed at 12:18. So I called my sister back, and as I got because I was the only one on the estate, I went back into the hospice, took care of all the stuff that needed to, signed the release of the body to Church and Chapel Funeral Services, which they did a profound job of making sure that a plot was attainable for her in the Kenosha Memorial Cemetery down in Kenosha County. It is a beautiful place if you ever get the chance to visit. But she's buried there on the south side of the complex. So if you ever want to visit her gravesite, her name is Karen Ann Thompson. She was born 1945. She was pronounced dead March 4th of 2021. So, I went down, released the body, took care of all the final documentation I needed to, gave her a military salute as she left. But she never left me, because she was standing right there in spirit form the whole entire time, telling me that she was extremely proud of me for the man that I had become, and how I didn't think about myself anymore, how I thought about others instead, and the well-being of how they feel. So I took the time and I basically made sure everything was taken care of with that, and then, like I said, I took care of the estate. And what I ended up doing was that when I checked everything and checked all the documentation and everything, she had made sure that I was the primary beneficiary on things to make sure that the process went smooth. So what I did with that was I took care of all of the debts, because I knew that I was going to be coming up into a divorce, and that I was going to need all of the resources I could to be able to clean up all of our negative history together, so that way when we went into the court systems to get the divorce, that it was not something that would take a very long time and not be a process of an ordeal, or an ordeal of a process. So I basically took care of all of the negative stuff, which I took care of about $50,000 worth of debt. And I made sure to clean up almost all of my ex-wife's stuff, except for her student loans, which she's responsible for, because that was not even close to mine. So um, which she was fine with. And then I gave her a little bit of cash flow for a small settlement to make sure that she didn't want to include the estate into the affairs of the divorce, which she was kind enough not to. And I truly appreciate that in regards, because it really did teach me a very valuable lesson at another time. But that's a story for another time. My mom went with the veteran memorial ceremony, and it was a beautiful thing. All of the family that was available to show up showed up and came to the funeral to say their final goodbyes. And there was a couple people that didn't, and I understand why, because they had their final goodbyes when they were in the hospice with her, and that was absolutely fine. So, what I'm trying to tell you, it's not about how you handle the situation. It's not about the situation. It's about how you handle the situation that's important. I handled this event with being strong, being courageous, and being there for other people because I knew that it was more important for them than it was for myself, because I had been exposed to her love all of my life, and it was better that I was able to give it to the other people that were involved that didn't receive it as much because of the boundaries and restrictions that they had all placed against seeing each other and actually communicating. And I thought it was a pretty sad thing that it was 25 years since my eldest sister had seen my mom. 23 years since my second eldest sister had seen my mom. And it had been so many years since my mom had seen any of the grandchildren. And she had a bunch of grandchildren that really wanted to actually be a part of her life, but she didn't want to be a part of theirs because she was more of a reclusive person, self-sufficient, not requiring anybody else to come into her life to satisfy her or to take care of her. She died a very lonely woman, but she died at peace within herself, and that was the most important part. I just wish she could have tapped into the love in her heart and to actually have been able to give it to far more people, because it would have actually been something that could have been profound in saving her life. I am truly and happily grateful that she went in peace and that she's in a better place. I also get to see her from time to time, because when somebody passes away, they never truly leave you. They're always there. They're always watching out for you, and they're always making sure that you feel good. The reason why is because of the fact that they still care for you, even if they're in the afterlife or wherever it is that we go when we pass away and we return to the source. You know. So don't ever think that they're truly gone, because they're not. They're just on their way to their next movie. And you'll probably meet them again in a different form. Maybe not in this lifetime, but in a different lifetime you might. Because they always say that the people that are involved in your life at this point in time, you've had a connection with in a previous life. Think about it like that. This is not just our first rodeo here. We've been here a few times, some of us. Some of us have not, others have. But the way it is that if you think about it, we all came from somewhere. We all have to return somewhere. And right now, the very definition of us being physical means that we have to return to the metaphysical. We have to return to the source. And we'll receive a new mission. We'll receive a new programming. We'll receive new bodies, new upgrades in the future, because that's the way that humankind will be. It will be evolving. And that's the only way to be, is evolving. So, I hope that this little bit of a story can give you a little bit of light on how, when something as big as death and if something as strong as cancer comes into your life, and how, if you look at it in different lights and you actually stop thinking about yourself for a moment as the person that's sitting there witnessing it, but distance yourself and say, hey, look at, if I was to put myself into their shoes and live the life that they lived, would I have made the same decisions that led to this? And the answer is yes, you would have. Because you don't know what options they had, what things that they were facing, what demons that they had that were going on. But in my mom's case, something that she had quit doing over 30 plus years came back and haunted her, and it took her out of the equation. And part of that was probably because of the way she was thinking for many years. Let me just tell you this right now. One thing that I have learned on my personal journey. is that it's not the situations or events or the experiences that unfold. You can take them into any context you wish. But to be able to look at something with a far more empowering context can give you a far more empowering result and outcome. It's all about your thinking. It's all about how you handle things. And if you can handle things on a positive note and you can actually, handle things and not get emotionally hooked to it, that's the name of the game right there. Because life is ever so much better when you don't have things to worry about. And you know that you can find peace within yourself every day. Because happiness, peace, joy, and every emotion, every feeling, it all starts within you. So let me ask you a question today. How do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel mediocre? Do you feel, I don't know, boss, I'm just not feeling it today? Because with how you feel, with how you're feeling, there's nothing but a projection of a thought that keeps replaying in your mind because you haven't gotten to the point that you let it go. If you let the thought go, all of a sudden, the feeling goes away after 90 seconds and turns to joy. Yes, it's proven true that if you can sit there and take and feel an emotion, feel it in its fullness, feel it in its raw power, but not give in to the thought of actually wanting to think about it, but just to observe it and see where it goes and see what it does, it gives you a far more profound impact to being able to handle situations of adversity or situations that require you to be at your full attention. Because you've got other people that are relying on you to be able to relay vital and very powerful news to them. Think about it. Most people don't understand how much they're actually needed in this world until they're really gone. And I've come across a very sad philosophy through my years. My years are this. Most men don't receive most of their flowers until they're in their coffin. So ladies, if you see a man out there that could really use some, someone to step up and say hi. Somebody to actually say, hey, look, I was just thinking about you and I just thought maybe you would enjoy this. We men appreciate flowers too. I love roses. I love lilacs. I love lavender, night jasmine, Tahitian tiare, you name it. I love flowers. Flowers are good. Men love flowers. So, ladies, do yourself a favor. If you got a man, get him some flowers. Doesn't cost much. And it's just the same like you would want us to get you flowers. You would appreciate them and love them and take care of them until they died, right? We would too. So, those are just my thoughts. Random thoughts at the end. But I thought maybe somebody might have needed to hear that today. This is Joshua signing off. I hope you've enjoyed our little bit of time that we've had here today. I hope you've enjoyed the story. And I hope to bring you some more of my experiences quite soon. Thank you, and have a wonderful, blessed day. Lots of love, lots of peace, lots of harmony, and I believe in you. And if you need to hear it again, I believe in you. Peace out.